Hey everybody, this is Steli FD with Closeout, and today I want to talk to you about stakeholders within SMB SaaS. This is a topic I've never seen an article about, and I'm reading, probably have read almost everything that's ever been written about SaaS. And because there's so little discussion around this and knowledge to be passed around, we fell into a trap in the last 1.5 years with Close, and we learned an important lesson, and I wanted to share that lesson with you and start a conversation. Typically, when you think about different stakeholders, you're talking about enterprise. You're talking about enterprise sales and enterprise SaaS. We're thinking about these massive organizations with all different departments, stakeholders, and all that. And I've talked about this before, how the difference between selling to one person or a massive, massive Fortune 500 company, at its essence, you're still always selling to people, right? There's no logo walking around purchasing software. But the main thing that makes enterprise sales so much more complicated is that there's so many different people you have to sell to. And they have very opposing needs and views and priorities. So that is what makes enterprise sales so complex and why it takes such a long time and why you better be paid really well if you are going into that direction. But when we talk about SMB sales, we always think about a faster selling cycle. We understand that it's not like selling to end consumers with just one person making a decision, although even that in a household could be wrong. But when we talk about SMB, we're talking about small and medium-sized businesses. And too many SaaS companies that sell to the SMB are really not separating and segmenting and differentiating between all these different stakeholders within an SMB customer. Here's something funny that happened at Close last year. In the beginning of 2017, for the very first time, we wanted to invest in a success team, and we wanted to not just provide amazing support to our customers, but we want to be proactive in reaching out to our customers and helping them get more value out of the solution and get more success with the solution. So we started hiring success people, putting together a success team. And what did the success team do? Very organically and naturally, they thought, well, we have thousands of customers, we're a small team. How do we prioritize? Well, let's just start with our biggest customers first. Let's just reach out to them. And then when they looked at those biggest customers, some of them had hundreds of sales reps on Close. How do we now decide who to talk to, right? We're not going to talk to all the people there. So how do we prioritize? Well, let's talk to the admin, to the manager, to the person that's administrating the entire account, probably the person that purchased the product, or once the product was purchased, the person that took over managing and administrating the entire account with us. So the success team started reaching out to these admins, talking to them, setting up webinars, consulting them, coaching them, checking in on them, account managing them. And obviously, through all that relationship building and all those conversations, the success team started listening more and more to their needs, their wants, their desires, their problems, their grudges, and they were passing along that feedback to the rest of the company and especially to the product team. So what started happening very organically without us even noticing? Our product team and our overall company started prioritizing and focusing more on building features and fixing problems that are admin priorities. So the entire 2017, we really started investing more and more and more in admin features and not as much anymore in end user features, sales rep features. Now let me give you a little bit of a background here. Close is the only CRM in the market that prioritizes the end user before the admin. Every CRM under the sun starts off by having some kind of a thesis. We're going to build a CRM that's social, that's mobile. We're going to build a bigger CRM, a smaller CRM, this, that, or the other, whatever it is. And then as they're trying to get bigger and bigger customers, they're starting to focus more and more and more to sell to the person who's purchasing, or the person with all the purchasing power, which is usually the admin, the manager. And what does the manager want? The manager wants reporting. The manager wants control, right? Being able to give user permissions. The manager wants forecasting. The manager wants data and integration. So that's what most CRMs prioritize and build more and more and more of. And then as they outgrow even that kind of a customer size, now selling to larger and larger enterprises means not just selling to the admin and the manager, but selling to leadership, to the, chief revenue officer, to the CEO, to the executive suite. And what do they want? They want visibility, they want security, they want integrations with all kinds of other departments and tools. They want all kinds of things that have nothing to do with selling better and being more productive as a salesperson. CRMs have always been built and sold top down. Upper management buys the CRM and then forces it down the throat of the sales reps that have to use the system. And that's why most CRMs honestly suck. And I know that I'm biased here, right? You might think, well, of course you say that, Sally. You're selling your own CRM. It's true. I'm very, very biased here. But just because I'm biased doesn't mean I'm wrong, right? So if you're wondering why many CRMs are so complicated and not user-friendly at all, it's because they were never built for the user. The user is not a priority stakeholder for all other CRMs, I would claim, except us. Maybe there's another exception here and there, but even the few CRMs that started with an end user in mind, eventually, because they have all this VC pressure and the pressure to grow and the pressure to IPO one day, they move up market organically. They're trying to get to the enterprise, and eventually they lose their way. And we're not free of that. We don't care about VCs. We're not caring about IPO. We're going to build a huge business, and we're fully dedicated on the SMB market and the SMB customer and the end user as our number one priority stakeholder. But we lost our way because, we meant well. We wanted to invest in our customer relationships. We wanted to be proactive. So we built a success team. The success team prioritized in the simplest way possible. And boom, all of a sudden, we created an echo chamber where we gave the biggest microphone to not our most important user. So what happened was we lost touch with our most important stakeholder. And if you know anything about me, you know that I'm screaming customer intimacy and customer insights at every conference, at every talk, at every conversation I have. And I love to quote and to say that whoever understands that customer best will ultimately own the relationship. And if your competitors understand your customer better than you do, they will get them one day, sooner or later. So it is incredibly important for you to understand your customer really, really well. And part of understanding your customer really well in SMB SaaS is to understand the ecosystem within your customers and the stakeholders within your customers, and to differentiate, segment, and prioritize. So one interesting thing that happened in 2017 as we built more and more features and we made Close more powerful, but prioritizing the admins before the end users, our salespeople, our people, was that our NPS score, stayed the same, if not slightly dipping. And we noticed it and we thought, well, that's super weird. Now let's dig a little bit deeper. NPS score means Net Promoter Score. It's a simple survey that allows us that allows our customers and users to tell us how happy they are with a product and if they would recommend it to others or not, right? And based on that, you can tell a lot about customer satisfaction. So we're like, wow, this is weird. We've invested so much in success and we've developed the platform and customers are not a lot happier. They're just a little happier or even dipping a bit. What's going on here? So we analyzed the data and we realized that our end user NPS scores went down dramatically because the sales reps, they didn't see a lot of features and functionalities that allowed them to do their job even better. And the NPS score of admins, administrators, that one improved because that's who we prioritized on. Well, overall, we have a lot more end user seats than we have admin seats, right? Every account just has one admin, but typically has many, many multiple end users and sales reps on Close. So we realized, wow, we made the wrong stakeholder a lot happier and we neglected our most important stakeholder. And we didn't do that by design. We did it by default and by mistake, by not being as thoughtful and mindful as we should be. So we started breaking this down a little bit, and I want to break this down for you and help you understand this better, be more strategic for yourself on this. If you think about stakeholders in SaaS, there's a few that are very basic typically. You have an end user, that's going to be the person that's going to be using your product for most of their day or for most of the time, the heaviest user within the SMB customer, the company that purchased your software. You have the user, you have the admin, that's the person that usually purchases the product or has a lot of decision making over the purchase, but is the person responsible to administer the entire account. But in our case, oftentimes that's the sales manager. Then you have leadership, right? Leadership could be, the CEO, the founders, could be the VP of marketing, the VP of sales, or the chief revenue officer, somebody that's a very high level executive and leader in the company that's not really interacting with the product that often, but has influence, is a stakeholder over the overall decision. Then you have an engineer or an ops person, somebody that's going to use your API to integrate it with other tools, somebody that's going to set certain automations or clean up the data or export or import the data or set connections between, in our case, close and the website and the marketing automation tool and whatever else you're using, right? There's going to be some engineering resource or operations resource that's going to have to use the system. Typically, it's in the beginning. It's not as frequent, but they're going to have to use your API maybe. They're going to have to use your permission and roles. They're going to have to do export of data and write. Maybe they'll use a tool like Zapier to do some integrations and automations. So that's another stakeholder. And then there's other departments, right? There might be somebody in marketing that needs to have access to the CRM. There might be a support team that needs to integrate in some way, or the success team in some way that integrates with the CRM, right? We build our CRM for salespeople. And we want salespeople to close more deals, make more sales. We want to make them more productive. We want to eliminate manual data entry and empower them to do their job better and faster and stronger. But in most teams that use us, or in many teams that use us, it's not just the sales team that uses us. It's the success team as well, because they're doing account management. In our team, it's the same thing. Our success team is using Close just like the sales team does. In some teams, there's a recruiting team or recruiter that's used Close as an ATS system to recruit. In many of our cases, when there's a startup customer, they might have one organization where it's their sales team, and then the founders might use Close to do fundraising, right? So there might be other departments or teams or individuals in the company that want to have access, integrate, or use the system in some kind of a different use case. So you have to understand that you have these like 5 stakeholders in most SMB SaaS customers. And they do different things and they influence and relate to different things, right? You need to ask yourself, who uses our system most of the time, who buys our system, who interacts with the system once in a while, but not all the time, who integrates our system, and who can block the purchase of our product or system or lock it, right? So anybody that does integration or operational work with your tool might be the person that, if your tool integrates really deeply within the organization and the engineering team has done a lot of work to integrate really deeply, that can be a lock. But conversely, and this is very true oftentimes in enterprise teams, but also with us actually, if I think about it, the IT department that nobody's thinking about selling to because there's no purchasing power can be a big blocker for new purchases. They can just look at your system and say, nope, not secure enough. No, the API doesn't do what we want. No, we can't integrate this product with our system. And if the IT department says no, boom, done deal, you're out. In our case, a funny thing that happened was that because we have an incredibly powerful API and probably the best API in CRM, a lot of companies would purchase us because the engineering team would take a look at a few different CRMs that they had to integrate deeply within their internal systems and just say, you should go with Close. Their API is the best. We want to use that system to integrate. It's going to take us a few hours versus taking us weeks of integration work that we could rather spend on other things. So our API has been an incredible factor in acquiring customers, not because of the end users. The sales reps don't really care about API. But the engineer and the ops person that has to integrate, they care about API. And so they become an enabling factor for purchasing our system. And then they become a person or a team that locks us in. Even if somebody wants to leave, they've integrated it so deeply that we have lock-in, right? So you need to understand who buys your system, who uses it, who integrates with it, who interacts with it, and who can block it or lock it, right? Create lock-in or block the deal from happening in general. And you can see in this beautiful little whiteboard scribble that I put up on the wall that some people, pretty much everybody from user down to other could potentially block somebody purchasing your software or SMB customers purchasing your software. But these people relate to different activities differently. And you should understand who can do what within your customer base in SMB. And then what you need to do is you need to prioritize. And this is the most important thing. At the end of the day, you need to serve as many stakeholders, if not all stakeholders within a customer company as possible. All these stakeholders are important to close. We want to empower all of them, but not equally. There is a priority. And for us in the beginning, from the beginning up until now, we knew our number one priority is always going to be the end user, the salesperson, and we're going to put them above the admin and leadership, above engineering and ops, although we're doing a really good job with them as well, above other teams, right? We want to service all of them as good as we can, but the user, we want to serve the best. That needs to be our North Star, our priority. The voice we amplify the strongest. The NPS score, as we are breaking out the NPS scores now, we're paying more attention. That's the NPS score that's the most important to be going up and trending up, because it's our most important stakeholder. That's the stakeholder that needs to have the biggest influence over the product roadmap. And so we had to start thinking about ways to amplify the voice of end users, to survey them more, to talk to them more, to be disciplined and make sure that just because we become a bigger and bigger company and our customer base becomes massive and our customers are growing so much, we don't just default into the easiest thing to do, which is to always just talk to one person at every customer, and usually that's the admin, but to make an effort to talk to our end users, listen to them, pay attention to them, invest in the relationship with them to make sure that they're staying the happiest, because that's what got us to the dance. The only reason why Close is such a successful company is because we serve salespeople better than anybody else out there. And we intend to keep it that way. So we might have lost touch a little bit for a little while last year, but we're getting back in touch with our core stakeholder. And it has reignited our commitment to being the best CRM for salespeople, right? Built by salespeople for salespeople. And that's what really is differentiating us and what will continue to differentiate us. So I hope that this little sharing our failure, the mistake we made without being aware of it, and then uncovering that we have to be much more mindful and thoughtful and segment our stakeholders and think about how they influence things and how we interact with them. I hope that sharing that story is going to be a helpful lesson for many SMB SaaS companies out there, and that this is going to kickstart a conversation to have SMB SaaS startups and companies be better at understanding their stakeholders and serving them and prioritizing them, instead of just thinking, because we sell to smaller and medium-sized businesses, we're just going to think of them as single unit entities, because they really, really aren't. All right? So please, if you have not done that yet, go to blog.close.io and subscribe to our blog twice a week. Highly tactical and strategic advice for startups, for small and medium-sized businesses that want to get better and crush it in sales. And if you have a story to share, a tactic, an idea, an insight, or just a question, shoot me an email, stelly@close.io. Always love to hear from you. Until next time, let's go and get them.